Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. So, we are talking about a major topic within perfectionism, and that is the fear of never being enough. So, we're going to be unpacking narratives that we've carried with ourselves that have held us back and kept us small, and then taking those thoughts, reframing them, and using that to propel us forward into a better version of ourselves. All right, let's get into it. Hey, it's Niara, and welcome to Confessions of an Ex-Perfectionist, where we talk about the hangups and holdups of being a perfectionist, and instead trading that in for a new approach on life, where we find the balance between striving for excellence while also doing things that are fulfilling and true to ourselves, honoring who we are as we strive to become all that we desire to be. Perfection is overrated, and you are way too amazing to worry about being perfect. Let's chat. Affirmation of the day. I am proud of myself no matter the outcome. All right, so I got a story for you guys today. We are bringing it back to high school. So I think this may have been sophomore or junior year of high school for me. And this is peak teenhood, peak perfectionism. And I think I always did pretty well at school. I've always enjoyed learning, and of course wanted to be a high achiever. I wanted to get good grades. There has always been praise for getting A's, for getting good grades. I was like, all right, let me keep up getting the good grades. So this was one particular marking period where I think take about 5 classes per marking period per semester. And I remember my thinking back then was like, all right, A's are the best. A's get the most respect and love. So let me get as many A's as possible. So my strategy for that marking period was to get as many A's as possible, even if one class maybe had to flounder. I was like, I don't want to mix A, B, C. I was like, no, I want as many A's because A's are the top. They're the main prize. They're the best. They're the highest you can achieve. So A's is what we about. So this marking period, I think it was like 4 A's and 1 D. I forget what the D class was, but my brain math was like, oh, I'm okay with letting one fall if it means I could get more A's because A's are what's important, right? They're the best, right? So I bring that report card home, and my parent is like, what's up with this D? And me, I'm like, this D? How about we talk about them 4 A's? I'm like, hello? I was like, man, whatever, forget these grades. And I never really did that because I still very much cared about school. But I was just like, bruh, even when I have 4 A's, the D still gets pointed out or gets the main focus. So that told my perfectionist brain at the time, it don't matter how good you do, there's always going to be something wrong. Uh-oh, trigger the perfectionism alarm. And that brings me into my subject for today. The fear of never being enough. Perfectionism could lead you to believe that any flaws or weaknesses will keep you from what you desire in life. It will keep you from love. It will keep you from being happy. It will keep you from success. And that's a real tough mindset to have because guess what? We are not perfect and we will never be perfect. Even that statement used to strike a nerve with me because I'm like, great, there will always be something wrong with me. Now, being older, I could be like, girl, relax. But in the moment, I'm like, great, there will always be something wrong. There will always be a reason for someone not to like me or not to whatever. And another thing I experienced was harping so much on my weaknesses and flaws that I never gave myself credit for what I was good at. I would not give myself credit or praise because my focus was on the imperfections. I was like, no way. I gave so much power to the imperfections. And as human beings, we are just naturally imperfect. We have our quirks and nuances that make us who we are. That's what makes us unique. And as I say, perfection is overrated. Being everything, there's literally no one on earth who is good at every single thing. Even the super successful, high achieving, high level people still have things that they're weaker at, or they still have flaws in themselves. But guess what? They focus on what they do well and then amplifying that. So that is what I want to talk with you today. Everybody has shortcomings, and being human is about being imperfect. It's in those imperfections where you find the beauty of life. I will say, like, me as a performer, as a dancer, actress, singer, like, as I've developed the different disciplines, I've been dancing for over 20 years now, so that's my strongest discipline. And then I've trained in acting, theater, and singing. And when I started to do more musical things, because I had ambitions and dreams in music, I was so afraid that my singing not being as developed would be the thing that kept me from my musical dreams. And it's so interesting because as a kid, like being young, like I don't think I ever felt that way about dance. When I was young, I just did it for the love of it. And it wasn't even about like, oh, perfection. It was like, oh, I just love dancing and I'm gonna keep learning. Like I think a helpful thing is really getting back to that resilience as a kid. Like, okay, you fell off the bike. All right, you get back on, and try again. But as an adult, we become more self-conscious and we put more weight on failures and we experience more things like shame or embarrassment, or we're more aware of that and more self-conscious of that as we're getting older. And I have found now, being in my mid-20s, having to shake some of that stuff off, because putting myself in such a bind, trying to walk on eggshells and trying to avoid missteps wasn't a comfortable or happy way of living either. That's miserable too. That's not a great way of living either, beating up on yourself and not giving yourself grace. That's not fun either. I was so worried about being perfect. So I was stressing about having flaws, which is natural, and beating myself up for having shortcomings, which is a part of being human. And I'm like, this is not making me happy. Like I'm telling myself this narrative that, oh, being good at everything, being A plus or having no flaws is what will make me happy. And it's like that vision is so narrow that it really can make life narrow. And to me, life is meant to be expansive and interesting and be a journey, And to be honest with you guys, even now, singing is still my least developed discipline. And I still deal with feelings of feeling away like, oh no, like it's my weakest one, like it's not as developed, like, uh-oh, people are going to see through me. They're going to be like, I see you're not as good at that as you are dancing. Like, it's that whole living, waiting for a gotcha or waiting for someone to say, see, I told you weren't good, or see whatever. That right there is what I would say is searching for confirmation bias based on what I have told myself internally, that the narrative that, oh, if I don't get this right, if I'm not great at this, I won't be able to live my dreams. If I don't get this completely right, I won't be worthy of love. Or if I don't do this right, I'll be sad and miserable. That was the kind of narrative I was telling myself. And I had to fix that because, hello, it's simply not true. It's simply not true. And that was a narrative that, one, wasn't helpful, and two, I don't have to claim as a truth in my life. So a lot of overcoming perfectionism is reframing our mind and telling ourselves a different story. When you do the self-work and start to unpack how you came to have certain beliefs, it's like, well, do I have to believe this? That's something my therapist pointed out to me because I was talking to her about a specific instance where I had a professor in college and she made the statement that, oh, if you do anything besides this, then you're not serious about it. And I took that to heart. I took that statement that this person said years ago at this point, held on to it, and made it a truth in my life. And then ever since then, it's been like, oh, like, but I know I have different passions, or like, oh, if I know I want to do something beyond this, then I'm not going to be taken seriously. And my therapist was like, well, you don't have to carry that thought. And I was like, And mind you, this is after having carried the thought for years on end. And I was like, you know what? You're right, I don't. Because That thought hasn't been helpful to me. Matter of fact, it's kept me small and it's kept me limited, and it has caused me to continue to have a dilemma every time I think about my dreams, and I wonder like, oh, are people going to take me seriously? Oh, will I never be successful if I'm not solely on one thing? Like that is an unhelpful thought that was projected onto me and told to me. And guess what? I don't have to keep it. Boop. Yeah. So, what I want you to take away from this is taking account for those narratives and beliefs that you tell yourself about your weaknesses. What is the story you're telling yourself that if I'm not perfect, what will that result be? Do you think it will be a lack of love? Do you think you won't be happy? So, I want you to ask yourself that question. And then ask yourself, well, what if that wasn't true? What if there was a different way of thinking? Reframe that statement. So I want to share this affirmation with you I got from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. It's a 12-week program journey that I decided to do this last quarter of this year. And in dealing with reframing my thoughts, I want to share 2 affirmations I wrote down. And these are specifically tailored towards creativity. What I do for like work and just in life in general is a lot of creative stuff. But these are just to show some examples so that you can apply this type of method and thinking to whatever you want to address in your life. The first affirmation is, every step in my creative journey is valuable, no matter the outcome. So this gave me assurance that no, every step is valuable, no matter if it turns out the way I wanted it to, the way I thought it would go. Even if it quote, quote, falls short of what I was aiming for, it could still be valuable. So that was a helpful reframe for me. And the second affirmation is, I'm not defined by any single success or failure, but by the courage to keep creating. Now that you could simply substitute to keep creating with by the courage to keep showing up for myself. You know, those affirmations were a result of me identifying an unhelpful narrative or belief I had and reframing it into a way that was actually helpful to me. So for this week's exercise, I want you to write down about 3 to 5 beliefs, sentiments, or any thoughts that have shown themselves to be unhelpful to you. And I want you to reframe them. Write an affirmation affirming the new thought you want to have. So give yourself more credit. Uplift your strengths. Don't let your focus stay on your shortcomings or what you think is your weakness. And there's always room for growth, but positively cheer yourself on as you continue to get better. I want you to know you don't need to be good at everything to be loved. I want you to know that. You could still have a great job. You could still have fulfilling relationships. You could still have joyous hobbies, even if you don't check mark every single box. Yep, so that's it for this week. As always, stay encouraged on your journey. Utilize these tools and resources, and be sure to follow this podcast so that you get notified of every upload. I'm aiming to give you a weekly boost of encouragement for you to have along your journey. Again, this path is not linear, and often it can take time to build new thoughts and build our muscles in self-confidence, self-love, and self-trust. Thank you so much for tuning in, and give yourself praise for showing up for yourself and taking steps forward to make a better, more fulfilling life for yourself, because you deserve it. All right, I'll talk to you next time.